Because that is
Yeah.
hard to tell your parents.
Again, my therapist.
Wow.
She's done such a good job with me that I'm able to open up and say things that I never thought I would say. That's why I love my girl. Eva, if you get to watch this, shout out to you, girl.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have another Latina therapist in the building. Introduce yourself, tell us your name, where you're from, what you do for work, and what your views are on mental health.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. Nice to be here. My name is Marla Guadamuz. I am from Honduras. I was born in Honduras. I was raised in Miami, Miami native. And my views on mental health, I think it's very important. I think that mental health is not something that we talk about much still in this, 2025. There's a lot of stigma still in our Latin communities. And that's why I'm so passionate about mental health.
So, what really got you into wanting to be a therapist in the first place?
My husband.
What do you mean?
Well, basically, since I was little, I was like, oh, I want to be a psychologist. I want to be a therapist when I was little. Life happens. I become a mom at a young age. I get married. I had to put that on hold. And my husband joins the military. He gets out. He starts going to therapy. And I was like, I started seeing the patterns, like a lot of unhealthy behaviors. Achievement, people, the family always being on top of what you did and what you didn't do. Just very toxic behaviors.
Mhm.
The person is not toxic, the behaviors that are toxic, right? And so I was like, okay. So then he was like, I told him one day, like back in 2012, I want to say, I want to be a therapist, but I dreaded because I knew it was going to be a long road, like extremely long road.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I was like, no, that's it. I have to not be scared. I got to do this. So I started with my undergrad. I finished my bachelor's in 2019. Then I waited a year. I applied, and within that year, I applied to grad school. I got into grad school. I finished grad school, and here I am. So I am almost a year down. I have one more year to go. So next year, I'll be able to sit for this state board test, so I can become a licensed clinical social worker.
Go
Nice.
off, sister. So now it's been a year. What's your experience been like so far? Do you still love it? Like, is it still your passion? Tell me.
Every day, I get happy every day to go to work. I love work. I love my agency. I'm in private practice. Um, it's amazing. I look forward to going to work every day, seeing my clients. It's a beautiful career, in my opinion, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing. So I know some people go into it and they're like, I don't like it very much. Not me.
Hmm.
I'm like, yes, I love this. This is what I've always wanted to do.
And that's
Mhm.
so important
It
because,
is.
yes, because if you don't have that passion, like, what are you really doing in this field? Right? Because, and that's how I feel too. Like, I can't see myself doing anything else. I love making a difference in people's lives. And I truly believe like that's my purpose in life is to make a difference in people's lives. So I completely understand that.
Cheers to
Now,
that.
now, are there any mental health struggles that you've gone through that has motivated you to want to become a therapist at all?
I always suffer from depression and anxiety. I didn't really know how to pinpoint because honestly, I didn't know what mental health was
Interesting.
at all. Nobody ever talked to me about mental health. No one ever taught me how to be a parent. No. But I was born in 1979. My mom had no idea what mental health was. I was never taught any of that. So I had to learn on my own and educate my own and do better for my own and my children. So when my daughter was in school, my eldest, they started giving parenting classes. And I was like, oh, I'll join and I'll see, what it's about. I started seeing how my parenting sometimes wasn't the best. And I'm not saying all the time. I was a good mom. I was a present mom. I was a stay-at-home mom. But my approach to the children and, how I talk to them sometimes and how I would behave around them and say certain things around them. So I was like, oh, okay, this is not very healthy. I started becoming a better parent, and that was like a stepping stone. So it was a lot of little things, that led me to here.
Mm-hmm.
What does depression look like for you? I ask because like depression looks different for everybody.
Yes, it
So does
does, and it is.
anxiety.
Yes,
So
it
what
is.
does it look like for you?
I was the high functioning for a very long time. But then I had moments where I would just like dip and I was like, what is this? And I suffer, I can probably tell you since I was like 15 years old, I can recognize these symptoms. So, funny story, fun fact, I myself, I was diagnosed in 2022, in January of 2022 with bipolar depression. So everything made sense. Everything came together and I was like, oh, wow. And it took me some time to accept because you're like, what?
Yep.
Okay, so I was like, okay, so I made peace eventually. I do take my medication every day. So I always tell my clients I like to disclose that with them. And I also share a little bit about it on social media. I'm very vocal about mental health, and I think it's very important that my own clients understand that I go through the same struggles and I've been through the same struggles that they have. So we connect, and it's really cool.
That's great because normally what they teach us in school is to not disclose as much,
Yep.
not to be as vulnerable,
Yeah.
and when disclosing, that's the type of information that our clients, I feel,
Yeah.
want to know.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting approach because a lot of us, at least I know me and I know Ashley has also done this, like we've disclosed when something is relatable to our clients.
Of course.
So has there been any negative feedback to you disclosing?
Not at all. I think that just helps me connect more with my clients, which is so funny. So I talked to my therapist and I was like, hey, I want to share a little bit more about my mental health struggles on social media. I know eventually people are going to find when I start being a therapist and, doing my career, people are going to find my social media, obviously, because whatever you post on social media, it's there forever. So I was like, do you think it's a good idea for me to share? Give me your feedback. She was like, share it. There's nothing wrong with that. That is, if that's something that you feel that you need to do to help others and for people to identify with you, share it. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with letting your future clients know that you struggled with your mental health, but you actually are a lot better now. You know how to cope. You learn, you go to therapy, you take your medication, you find, time for self-care, to sleep, to rest. You know how to recognize what's wrong with you, and you are doing your work, and you're doing so much better now, which I am.
At the end of the day, you have to make sure you're doing what's right for you because as therapists, yes, we're therapists, but we also need to learn how we function properly. And if we don't take care of ourselves, there's no one else that's going to take care of ourselves
Right?
for us.
That's something that I talk so much. It's like a subject that comes up literally every time in almost every session with my clients. And that is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more to that. But
no, it's the truth.
Yeah.
No, and funny enough, a parent actually came up to me at school, like it's a new client, a new kid, and we were talking, and she told me, oh, I had gone to therapy because of everything that was going on with my kid, like it was too much.
Yeah.
And my therapist did not understand the Hispanic culture, or at least was not open to understanding because the first thing she told me is kick out your 25-year-old daughter from your house because no one over the age of 18 should be living at home.
Correct.
And this mom, she was so distraught when she told me, and she was like, no, like those are my babies, those are my kids, like that's the Hispanic culture. We're just all so united that we don't leave. We don't. And so I think it takes a very like knowledgeable person to be able to learn not only about mental health, but also
Cultural
about
competence.
yes, exactly, cultural competence, which is a class that we had actually.
Yeah, you
Um,
do. Yeah.
so it's interesting how it all comes back.
Yeah, and it's very important. Like, my therapist is a white lady, right? So people ask me, "Oh, how do you feel about it?" I'm like, I love this girl. Her competence, even though she's not from my background, from my ethnicity, she is amazing. She's very understanding. She knows a lot. She's very educated. I love her. And I was like, I'm not going to change her. Like, I love this girl. I felt very comfortable with her from day one. Like, oh yeah, she's my girl. So I've been with her for I think 2 years and a half now. We'll be going into almost 3 years together.
Wow.
And so I have a few thoughts. So going back to you and social media and just like how much you should be opening up and all those
Yeah,
things. Like,
yeah.
I love your posts, and that's what really caught my attention about you. And that's why I was like, you have to come on the podcast, because I just appreciate like how real you are and just like how
Yes.
funny some of the things are.
Oh my
And
God, yeah.
I
I have
love
a
it.
sense of humor.
I
I
think as a
love it.
therapist, we need to have sense of humor.
Yeah,
I, I have so much fun with my clients and therapy. I make them laugh. We get serious, we cry,
yep.
we get mad, and we go through all the motions. And I think that's so important to be authentically you. I'm very big on that. Of course, always being professional. That we don't take that away, but just because we're being professional does not mean that we cannot be ourselves. We're normal. We're normal people. We
Exactly.
cry, we pout, we have family problems, we have health issues, we have mental health issues, we have financial issues. We're regular people like everyone else. So I think it's very important for clients and those, to educate our communities, to let them know that yes, we are normal people. Just because we're therapists doesn't mean we're an exemption to any issue or problems. That we are real people.
Yep, it doesn't mean that we have our lives together. And the fact that we are so authentically ourselves is exactly what builds the therapeutic relationship between us and the clients. And I love that. And I love that you're able to make them laugh, cry, and all those things, because I'm the
It's
same way.
fun. Yeah.
I'm the same way, and I love that. Now, the fact that you say that your therapist is white, right? I mine is too. And I used to think like, no, I need a Latina therapist, and like so then I could talk the language with her and whatever. And honestly, I love my therapist so much. Like, homegirl really challenges my thoughts. Like, she really gets into my brain, and she really has me,
Right.
she literally helps me just take the time to think about things, like really evaluate the decisions that I'm making. So I am so grateful for her. And sometimes she'll be like, oh, like, what does that mean in Spanish? I'll be like,
I guess. Yeah, that's the only thing. For some people, it's very important that their therapist understands their background, which I think it's great. I see it, I'm the only Latina therapist in the area, by the way, in my area. So I'm getting a lot more busier, and they're discovering that I'm there. So people are starting to come more. So it's really cool. I think it's important, but it's, it also depends on how you click with your therapist.
For sure.
Like, I clicked with my white therapist, and I just love her. I can't leave her for a Latina therapist. I'm sorry, I just love her so much.
Now, being in the Hispanic culture, what are your family's views of mental health, and like what were their reactions when you decided to want to become a therapist? Your face.
My family, my daughter, my kids, my husband was very supportive. They're very great at it. I cannot complain. But my outside family, like, my mother's side, my husband's side, perhaps, were like, what are you doing? Why are you sharing your diagnosis? People are going to know what's going on. I don't care. I'm going to share whatever I want. You're not going to tell me what I'm going to do. I don't. Me vale tres pepinos y dos cacahuates. Como le We're going to keep it clean. But like, why should I have to hide something that I want to share? Because I want to keep a certain status quo or my image of myself to someone, hold my image to somebody else that I don't care. They don't pay my bills.
No, it's the truth.
So that's something that I've had to learn how to let go as well. To be myself, to be sure that I can express myself, to be sure that again I stay authentic to myself, and this is me, and I'm fine with that.
And that's something I believe that we only learn through experience. That's not taught at school. Because at
Or
school,
at
like,
home.
or at home, no. Because we need, at school, we're taught the skills, the techniques, how to be, proper and everything. But with time, that's how you learn what type of therapist you actually are. That's how you learn how you want to be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be super serious or if you want to, be a little relaxed. I know somebody who said that their therapist, she has come into the session with a collar brace and a cast. My friend, she knew better than to even ask because the therapist said, "This is not about me. This is about you." And
It is.
so she would
It is.
never disclose anything about herself,
Oh,
even if
well,
she
damn.
was in a cast or anything like that. Even if the client would say, "Are you okay?" She'd be like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Moving on."
Uh,
Yes and no. I understand where you want to draw the line, but it's also okay to be vulnerable and to let your clients know that you had an accident. I'm doing fine, not a problem. Why do you have to
yep.
be so anal about things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can say, "Well, I had an accident, I fell, but I'm okay. Thank you for asking."
Mm-hmm. That's
Right?
what I thought too.
We don't have to go into extreme details.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Well,
I what I share is like, okay, yes, I have bipolar depression. Yes, I do suffer. Sometimes I'll have my highs and lows. They're not extreme as in bipolar one, but yeah, I have them, and it's okay. I get up and I keep going. I know how to deal with it. I know how to recognize my feelings, and I think for me it's very important that I show my clients that it's okay to be vulnerable, to feel depressed, to feel, anxious, and whatever other mental health disorder that they might carry, because we're human, we're people, we're not robots.
was it hard for you to accept your diagnosis?
And it was very much so. It was. I was like, no, no way, nah. This can't be like, because it's a rough diagnosis to accept. Like it was like, okay, but you know what? I was like, I made peace with it. I like I mentioned, my psychiatrist is the best. My therapist, my team is amazing. Um, it's just it's been I wouldn't say an easy road, but a great recovery road because of the professionals that are part of my life, which have made it a little more easier for me to transition into the diagnosis and understand myself better.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that for you. And I wonder what your family thought when you decided to go to therapy and see a psychiatrist.
Oh, my mom said, ¿Y eso de dónde salió?
Oh, oh no.
Yikes. Okay.
You see, because when I decided to go to therapy for the first time, my parents literally like looked at each other and were like, "Why would you want to go to therapy? Like you have a roof over your head. What do you mean?" Yep.
Like, what's
Yep.
wrong?
Yep.
I'm fine. No, do you not remember the trauma I gave when you were little? When I was little, like
Yep.
make it make senses. We don't realize that. Even me, like we don't realize that there's a lot of things that cause trauma. It's like our community, our Latin community, is so reluctant to open up and say, "Oh no," because I got hit and I was fine. Yeah, but that's why you're so awful now, and you treated me like you shouldn't have been treating me. You didn't provide. My needs were not met properly. Had you met my needs, I mean, we're always gonna have issues. I understand that we're not perfect. We don't know how to be parents, but come on now.
I am terrified for the day I have kids because well, I come up from a loving family. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I really do. But there is times where like when there was conflict, that it was just never spoken of. Like we would just throw it under the rug. We would get mad at each other, but then throw it under the rug, and that was it. It was never spoken about.
There
You
you
know
go.
what I mean? And I don't want that to happen in my family. Like I want to make sure like the communication is there. If you're upset with me, if I did something wrong, if I said something that I shouldn't have said, like tell me what's
Right.
up, and then we can talk about it.
But there's little things that will always bother us. No one's perfect. You know, everybody has little things. Like, you know, my mother is too into my things. Like, mommy, let me go. You know, it's like I can do this by my own. Just little things like that, right? But not. You know, we're not perfect. But you know, we gotta learn. We gotta step aside sometimes.
It's interesting how your families deal with things differently. Like at least what I see from the Mexican culture is that they like to look at image, make sure the image is very like well kept. And my Uruguayan side, they are honest to a fault. Like
Yeah.
they're brutally honest with you, and in a way that can make really tough skin because I've heard it all. Like your flaws become your nickname. So
Girl.
I
Same.
have I have a tío that's named Fernando, but they call him Patico. And I was like, why do they call him Patico? And it's like, oh, because when he was a kid, he walked like a duck. I was like, this man is like 70 years old now, and they still call, like, I still call him that because I was raised with, like, that was his name.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
didn't know. And then I have a tia named Pati, but her name is something different. And then I realized, wait, your name is not Patricia? I thought it was the whole time. No, it's
Why?
something different. It's just her nickname. Again, she walked like a duck when she was little. So Pati. And I was like, oh my God. And then obviously, like in our cultures, also, there are the nicknames of just amor. Like,
Yeah.
like they'll call you names at a just because they
Same.
love you. So like in Uruguay, they'll like call you gordo, flaca, negro,
Same.
negra, like stuff
Same.
like that. But it's not to insult you.
No.
It's literally just for like care that they love to show that they love you. They love you because you got a nickname.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And so
Same.
in
Same.
terms of my family, thankfully, we're very good at communicating or at least like saying how we feel. Like we are like your kids are to you, we are to my mom where we call her out on everything. A little, maybe a little too much. So but we keep each other humble, that's for sure.
Within my family, we would throw things under the rug, and then like when we would get angry, we would like, get angry as shit. My mom used to throw shit at me, no hesitation. Whatever was around her, like she would just throw it at me, did not care. And like so
Nope.
that's how we would hash our things out. I would just take it, because I could never hit my mom, but like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would take it. But now knowing that's so funny. Knowing what I know now, like me and my dad have such great communication. And so now it's just like, hey dad, you upset me because when you said X, Y, and Z to me, like what can we do to kind of like resolve this problem? And like we
Okay.
actually have that communication that we never had in the past. It's awesome. Like I really feel like
Nice.
because again, like I really want to like be able to break those patterns within the family, and I have an alcoholic brother, and now we actually have communication of just like whatever he's feeling. Sometimes he doesn't tell me, but like most of the time he definitely tells me more than he ever has before.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
Baby steps.
Yep. So I really feel like knowing what I know now, communication is so important.
So I have a question for you now. What do you do for yourself, for your mental health, like to stay sane, basically?
Yeah, because you're a mom, you're a therapist, and just you do all the things. So like, what do you do to take care of yourself?
I take care of myself. I'm, it's really hard to find that balance, but I sometimes have to say no to work, come home and say, no, I gotta rest now. I gotta take a nap. I'm gonna rest for an hour or two. Then, get up and finish my notes, date nights, date afternoons, whatever it is with my husband. I take time to sit down with him because it's really just me and him now. The kids are grown.
And Marla, you've been in the mental health field for some time now.
Yes.
Now, knowing what you know now, like what advice would you give somebody that's trying to get into the field?
Just make sure that that's something that you are looking forward to. Make sure that you perhaps find someone like oh gosh,
Mentor?
yes, gosh, my brain. It's Saturday morning. I need more coffee. A mentor that you can ask questions to, make friends. Well, acquaintances. I want to say. Talk to people in your field. I have my best friend is in the field, and before I went into it, and I sat down with her. I was like, "Hey, I want to ask you some questions." She's an LCSW, and she was very supportive. She was Johanny. If you ever get to listen to this podcast as well, I love you, girl. You are my girl. We went to high school together. She was a year below me. I was a senior. She was a junior, and her husband is actually one of my best friends from high school because he was like my math partner. He was my chemistry partner, and I didn't even know that was her husband because I guess I started dating after I left high school. So yeah, we found each other. We reconnected through the years, and she was very helpful. My career, I got to connect with so many therapists, so many mental health professionals, which I love. And I've learned so much from them because we learn from everybody. Also, if they go into the field and you're going to choose an agency for your practicum or your intern hours, make sure that place is something that you want to make some type of home, something that you're going to learn and something you're going to take with you. I chose a domestic violence for my practicum agency. It was amazing. I learned
You
so
got a
much.
choice?
Yeah, I got to choose.
Yeah, we didn't get a choice.
No?
No, they just said,
Oh my.
be prepared to drive the furthest an hour away from you.
No freaking way.
Yeah, no, we didn't get a choice.
Oh no. Well, yeah, I got to choose. I did drive an hour away. It was those practicum and those. I don't want to think about that now because it was really rough. The driving, dealing with so many things. It was heavy, but it's worth it. So yeah, that's my niche now: domestic violence, veterans, PTSD. My husband was in the army. He's a vet. My son is active service member in the army. He's a MP, military police. We have a lot of members in the military, so that was my niche. That's what I specialized in school.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
You deal with a lot of heavy populations, though.
I do, right? And then I did not want to work with kids because I was afraid that I wasn't going to be good enough for them, or I don't know. It's just when I was in school, they were like, do not work with a population that you think is going to make you vulnerable, right? So I was hesitant to see kids. But, my supervisor, when I started, she's like, you need to see what populations you really want to work with because, maybe you'll be surprised. I didn't want to do couples. I didn't think that I was going to be capable of doing it either. Fun fact, now I love couples and I see kids. I see teens from 13 to 18.
Oh, that's so cute.
And I love them.
Yeah, you gotta know, or at least think about a population because honestly, I didn't think I would be able to do trauma. For the longest time, like, I found it interesting.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I had the bandwidth to actually do it. And 3 years later, I did it. And now I'm working with kids, which was originally my niche. But now I have that. I'm thankful for that knowledge of trauma because it makes me a better therapist for the kids.
It does. But, the thing is also, since I'm the only Latina therapist in the area, in the immediate areas, some parents do prefer a Latin, Latina or Latin therapist. And we're mostly girls. Like in our agency, we are 1, 2, it's me. We're 4 therapists, 5 therapists. And we're all women of color. Yeah, my supervisor also make sure, if you're listening to this, make sure that your supervisor is hands-on. Like my supervisor that's my girl, Jasmine, I love you, girl. She has pushed me out of my comfort zones. She's constantly on me. She's like, what do you need from me? Are you okay?
Right, right. And since you deal with such heavy populations,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever experienced countertransference yet? And if you have, like, how did you know?
No, no, not at all. Even though, I'm very open with them, I always try to keep that line. Um, because you can be open, but you also can be reserved.
Yep, true, true.
Right? You can, and you always keep it professional, and just let them know, it's good. But no, no contra, none of that. Thank God, my clients are great. I love them, each and every one of them, even the ones that have passed and through my office and now they're gone because they don't need me anymore, which is great. I love that. They gotta go on and they're like, okay, no, I don't need more therapy. I'm good. I tell them you're always welcome to come back, take a break, do your thing. I love that. I do not take it personal. I think it's one of the best feelings in the world to see that my client just came in not doing so well and now okay, they're like, okay, now I'm doing well. I feel better. You helped me a lot. You move on. It's great. It's a beautiful thing.
That's the
All right,
truth, yeah.
all right, Marla, I'm gonna hit you with the last question.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, where is your mental health at today? And if it's not in the best place, what are you doing to address that? Or even when it's not in the best place,
When
like what do you do to
well,
address it?
today I would say I don't think we can always be perfect because we're human and we have our ups and downs and things happen. But I would say I'm fine. I would say at least a 7. As I deal with a lot of stuff, it's heavy.
Absolutely.
Some sessions are more heavier than others. We hear a lot of things on a daily basis. So yeah, it can't be perfect all the time.
Marla, thank you so much for coming onto our podcast. It really means more than you know, and
Gracias.
especially since we've had to reschedule and do all these things. Like, I really
No,
appreciate that you've taken
you're
the time to do
good.
this. Like, you are so real. And again, this is exactly why I wanted you to come on because I
I
wanted you
love
to
it.
show off your realness. And thank
Always.
you for being so vulnerable with us and so honest with us.
Oh
It
yeah, thank you
means
so
the world.
much.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, share this with your friends and family. Leave us a comment. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on social media, Instagram and TikTok, Therapists _ Unmasked. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.